Oh my goodness. I have to ask, first of all, your assessment of this film. I know you've been traveling with it. Does it capture Nina Simone?
Well, I haven't traveled with it. I'm not doing the work they're doing. But I have, it's my pleasure to support the work that was so honorably done to capture someone I know, and I feel in present tense that I know and love, and whom I did not want as a girl into womanhood. I did not want her vulnerabilities exploited without her genius supported or celebrated. And I think they did an amazing job.
I would think from your perspective as producer that that's a difficult line to walk. I've seen, for instance, the Amy Winehouse documentary a number of times and felt very pushed away by the interference into one's life and how much to reveal after one has died. And what did you think about that constantly through this process?
Constantly. Constantly. You know, as a producer, I also oversaw all of the archival stuff. So in addition to what's in the movie, there is a lot of diaries and audio tapes and materials that I oversaw, whatever, but as also as a woman, and Liz Garbus being a woman, we so respected the complexity of her, of her nature, and we wanted to tell the story as much as possible from her point of view, from these audio tapes. How can we let her tell her story, her own story, as best as possible?
Where did all of these archival tapes come from?
All over the world. So we would just keep asking. It was just a thing of persistence. So we would talk to someone and they would say like, "Oh, I heard this," or Liz would say, all of these books or people. She was always trying to do an autobiography. Find that author. Where are they? They must have recorded her. And one person in particular, this gentleman Stephen Cleary, who ended up co-writing the autobiography that is available, said, yeah, I have those tapes somewhere. I don't know. And I would just keep call every couple of weeks, hey. And he lived in France. He lived in the Pyrenees. I would call, and then I kind of gave up, and then literally New Year's Day, he sent us an email. We got this email, Liz and I. Happy New Year's. I found the box of tapes. And I said, I will be right over. And I went to the Pyrenees and sat for a week every single day listening to Nina Simone talk about her life and recording them digitally, and it was the most intense week of my life, I can tell you.
Well, how much involvement did you have in the process of the film? It was just being part and being interviewed?
I was interviewed, and I only said yes because her daughter had referred me, because again, I'm very protective of those real lives of people that were contributors, shapers of social culture, and we sometimes don't realize how human they are. So that's why I went. And I was apprehensive of how much I would say or reveal. I was very protective and hoping to be edited and mindful of how I articulated what would be. In speaking with her direct, there was a sadness that she had about not being able to return home and find a place that was contemporary to her spirit, if that makes sense. When a lot of artists left the United States, it was for certain expressions of freedom that, even though we represent that or we claim to, we're a little bit more restrictive. And so you had a lot of people that found some kind of peace of mind abroad, but she would say, I'm lonely. So I had regular conversations with her as a person, as an aunt, just reflectively. And so with that being the kind of resonance on me, I was just very, very protective. And I have to say that when I got a chance to watch the first draft, I had to just do it very quietly, nobody around, it's kind of, so I'm also in the industry, so there's a certain way you watch it from a producer's eye with artistic license and all of those things. So I held my breath, and I have to say that I loved how they loved her.
We were holding our breath too. Like, we were holding our breath too. We were like, oh, I hope she likes it.
What if she hadn't?
Oh,
Then
no.
I don't know. We would have had the conversation, But it's that thing where we want the people we interview to enjoy the film, but also Liz is telling a story and a director, and so we try to. As a producer, I'm often in the middle of finding that balance, and it was very hard on this film to. We had to woo people to come and talk about Nina Simone.
Why is that?
I think people feel protective of her and nervous about how she might be portrayed, and because she's complicated, and there were highs and lows, and I think Liz as a director was a big convincing point. If you see her other films, the Bobby Fischer film, another difficult character, yeah.
Did you always want to have a sympathetic point of view toward her?
Look, we go in with an open mind. We try as much as possible to go in with an open mind and see, I think Liz chooses topics that are naturally complex and that are not, and that's her style of filmmaker. She's not a tabloid-esque or she's exploitative filmmaker. It's not her nature, which is why I like working with her also. But we go in with an open mind and weigh, like, is this? We kept thinking. We kept bringing it back to Nina. Like, how would Nina think about this? What would, how can we tell it more? Can we only interview people who knew her very well? Or had a empathy with her, or like who could help tell that story.
Was this painful for you to watch?
Yes. Each time I'm emotional. I wouldn't say painful. Each time, though, I am emotional. This is the first time I've been part of the moderating or Q&A where I didn't watch it first. This is the very first time. I've always watched it. And it's reminiscent of many of that time and that era, and so it's emotional. It's not painful, but it is emotional. It's revealing, and it talks about or goes into. They tell the film in a way that you're living in the era that's being portrayed, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it then becomes real time again.
So you're reliving as well.
Yeah, because it's still part of me, notwithstanding. So I'm in it again, and I don't mind the exercise, so to speak, because of the way they portray it.
How do you think they did that? In what way?
I think you have to fundamentally be based with an integrity and a consideration, a care of the end product, and on the way to the end product, how do you honor the stories
And yet tell
told.
a true story.
Well, but true stories are always there. It's usually when we start to over editorialize or assess someone that we want it to fit our telling of the story, and instead, in this case, letting Nina Simone be Nina Simone, and then just navigating and shaping it in a way that it's palatable for an end product.
What's a first memory, a primary memory you have of her?
I only laugh because I have loads of memories. Let me say the ending ones was when she claimed me I wasn't one of the kids. And so I was the adult niece with whom she could convey and confide and spend time with and feel safe with. That was really, for me, quite defining for her and my relationship, not to be brokered through my mother. You know, when you have the adults and then you have the kid table. And in the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years, I called France a lot to just engage and see how she was doing. And I'm honored to have been entrusted. I would say 1998 was when we started our relationship, one-on-one started.
As an adult, one adult to another.
Well, as a surrendered exchange.
Who did the surrender?
Well, I always loved her, so I didn't have any preconceived, but she was walking with the baggage, and the anticipation of what one would think was layered on her.
What did you call her?
Aunt Nina.
Aunt Nina.
Right. But it was then, and we could have very honest, and also I needed those people in my life to make sure that the memories that I was walking with, living with, and that were private for most of us, was maintained in a potent way, in a protective way, with people who knew what we knew but had not shared with others. So it was a mutual relationship.
A good one?
Yes. What would make you ask?
Just because of her and her reputation and some of the pain and all of that, the suffering that she went through.
And we had a great relationship.
Yep, yep. Did you have jokes together?
About people?
Sure. Like when you called her, we'd say, "Hey, how's it going?" I mean, somehow I can't imagine, with Nina, "Hey, how's it going?"
People are people.
Yeah. I have something I would like to share. I did not know Nina, but having listened to a lot of audio tapes and gone through a lot of diaries and personal things, there's one thing that's not in the movie, which is she loved to swim. So she learned to swim a little late in life.
She has a swimmer's body.
Yeah,
Right.
so she learned to swim late in life. She learned at the YMCA in New York, which I like. And her whole life, as she would talk about swimming, there were pictures of her amongst her personal things, of her in scuba diving gear, which I greatly regret is not in the film. But you might notice in that last performance where she's playing Be My Baby, she is in a swimsuit with a skirt wrapped around her. And I imagine in my mind she is saying, finishing the piano and going back to the pool. Good night, everyone. So that is one of the nice stories that I have to tell about my, whenever time I watch the movie that I love about Nina.
How many times have you seen the movie now?
Many times. So in the process of, I watched all the archival, I helped consolidate and flag the archival. I was in the edit room quite a bit, at least once a day with Liz, and then we've traveled the film from Sundance to Berlin and beyond. Wow. And so, the thing is, every time I think I did not watch it tonight, but a lot of times I say that I'm not going to watch it, and then I sit down and I end up watching the whole movie. I'm going to go out in a minute, and then I'm like, no, I'll just watch this part. Oh, I love this song. I'm just going to watch this song.
And so much of her life is music. Her life is song, yes?
The excerpts that we get publicly, it's in song. I mean, you think about, we know those lyrics, but now what they've brought you is they filled in those blanks, the background, where those lyrics really make sense. It's really a narrative to one's marrow, and I think it's just beautiful what they've been able to do. I think it sets a precedence for storytelling.
Is this a first time telling Nina Simone's story in film?
It's not entirely the first. There's a French film called Le Legende.
Oui.
That's fascinating, And I think
sounds
this is I mean, I would like to say it's the first real film about Nina that's portrays Nina. There are other films. There's another documentary that I think is being released, but that's more very much interview-based, lots of interviews, a little more academic. There's, of course, a narrative fiction film starring Zoe Saldana, which you may have heard about, coming out imminently, maybe.
Really? No, I did not know that. What did you want to accomplish with this film?
You know, when we started out, we just I don't think there's anything we set out to accomplish except to make a good movie that people are engaged with and care about, and that has politics and social change, like all of that good stuff that, you know, eventually we're like, this woman needs to, somewhere along the way we're like, this woman's better than Dylan, better than all these other icons. This woman needs to be remembered in American history in the 20th century as one of the great icons of American history. So, like, that's one thing that at one point we're like, we're going to make that happen. That's one thing we set out to do.
So you don't feel that she had already been established as that?
I don't think so. I don't think people, like, when I started out, like, I would say, oh, I'm working on this documentary about Nina Simone. A lot of people, particularly younger people, would be like, I don't know who that is. Like, literally a blank. Sometimes, like, I remember we went to France to do the interviews, and I had some camera equipment I was taking the camera equipment through security, and the guy that was stopping and checking and looking through all the camera bags, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're making a film about Nina Simone. He's like, oh, my dad loved Nina Simone. You know, but it was kind of always like, oh, yeah, but I don't think many people knew of all the things that she did in the civil rights movement and in music too. I don't think her legacy was and is that well known, and hopefully our film accomplishes that. I hope.
Do you feel?
I don't know.
Yeah? And let me just say for the record that Nina Simone is heard every single day on our radio station. She is a regular part.
Excellent.
Oh my God. I mean, I can't go a day without hearing Nina Simone. Mississippi, goddamn! Anyway, is there anything, we'll take some questions, is there anything that troubled you about this film or that you would change? No. She says, nope, right away. Great. Cool. Any questions? Yeah.
I have two questions. One's real quick. So the footage was any of it recreated? Like the shots of her, like going on the railroad tracks going to lessons?
The little girl, right.
Busted.
Busted.
No, so yes, it's probably not a surprise. There's no footage of Nina Simone when she's very young in the 1930s. There weren't a lot of home movies back then. So, and we wanted to have a visceral experience and tell that story. So we found, we did shoot with a little girl to sort of portray those moments, like emotionally taking, with her audio, telling her own story. We intercut it with largely some footage by an amazing filmmaker we discovered, H. Lee Waters, whose archive was in maybe South Carolina, who had gone and just shot daily life of African Americans in the 30s in the South. We were like, wow, someone did that. And so a lot of the stuff in the church, the kids dancing that you saw, that's from this archive that we discovered. But yes, we made a Nina character to help.
I'm not criticizing that.
Yeah, I know.
It's wonderfully effective.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
And we shot in Super 8 and 16 with a Bolex to give it the feel as if it were the home movies. Yeah. I shot the Super 8.
Another second is, was there any pressure or effort to hire a black team to make the movie? Because she was such a powerful force for her heritage. You know, I mean, whoever did put together the team, did you feel any of that? Was there
Any pressure?
Yeah, so,
effort even?
you know, so the team was very small, first of all. And in terms of, I mean, Liz was the best director, you know. We do have one of our producing partners, Jason Jackson's African American, and he brought the project and was there along the way with us, and has been a big part and is still a big part of it.
But they didn't want it exclusively told by a person with a, you know, a black person with a.
Well, you know, the impetus, the impetus, but no, that's fine.
You can't do it, but.
I think I mean, absolutely. But Liz was the best person to tell the story, you know, and yeah.
Thank
I'm sure
you.
to answer that, but yeah. I know, I totally understand, yeah.
Go ahead.
The diaries, you were made aware of them and given permission. The interviews are wonderful, and we hear her speaking. Diaries are just so heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you get access to them?
So Lisa had some of the diaries. Lisa, her daughter, had some of the diaries, and so 3 of the diaries came to us right away through her, and we scanned them all. And then later in the process, another diary surfaced through the estate, and yeah, we thought that this is Nina expressing her truest stuff, you know, and they were given to us to use, and yeah, we thought, boy, you know. Thank you.
Anyone else? Another question? Go ahead.
It's not really a question, it's a comment. Something that beautiful, it's been that complex. I don't know much about documentaries, and I've seen a few over the years. Maybe the sorrow and the pity, you know, hits on telling a story and portraying someone like that. So, you know, I haven't seen a lot of documentaries, but boy, oh boy, I don't think I've ever seen. I'd be shocked if you guys didn't.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Amen. And with that, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
What a
Thank you,
beautiful
everyone,
job.
for coming.